Why is this in any way meaningful? And what is it really going to affect? Because my understanding is it actually doesn't affect that many drug categories. Can you explain why this is important?
So, John, first of all, I think it's a well-targeted piece of legislation, which is why the so-called first loss in 50 years has occurred. There's some real sensible parts in it that take care of the common arguments against it. So what does the drug have to be in order to be negotiated? Well, it's got to have no generic or biosimilar, so it has a monopoly. To be on the market for already 9 years if it's a regular, like a pill, and 13.
Just slow down, Captain. The generics and biosimilars are those drugs that where there's actually competition in a category of drugs that are post-patent. Because remember, David, you're kind of understating the fat profits that pharma can charge appropriately when they create a new drug or compound. But in many of those categories, generics, which are simple chemical compounds like a pill, you get to compete, or biosimilars, which are typically infusible drugs that are these kind of remarkable things like immunotherapy. But there are, even in those categories of novel revolutionary drugs, biosimilars. And so we're only, what you're saying is we're only talking about negotiating prices where there is no possibility of a competitor in a category after they've gotten through the patent protected profits. Say that 5 times quickly.
Yeah,
please.
I'll try not to. This sounds like the PPP, John. That's something else from last year's legislation. But John, this is I'm just trying to help you here, Dave. Yeah, I'll take any help I can get, especially after you hit me with a 31% price increase. But the products they're only going to affect things that have been on the market for long enough that they should have a competitor, and they don't, right? So it's been on the market for more than 9 years if it's a pill, or 13 years if it's an infusion. Also, this doesn't count any orphan drugs. So that's for like small populations.
You mean those drugs that don't have parents?
Drugs that not only they're so expensive, John, that they sold their parents as well. That's how much. No, it's got to be a drug. Orphan drug is a drug for an orphan condition, which is a condition that affects only a small number of people. And the idea is there's extra protections, extra incentives for the pharmaceutical industry to avoid competition, so that they will produce
because
drugs for these categories.
For the orphan drug categories, they're often rare or limited population clinical diagnoses that you really do need to protect the ability to innovate for those rare conditions where, again, there are some remarkable drugs being developed. So those are also out. So pharma gets to price those at whatever it thinks is a fair price, and there's no ability to negotiate. So what are we really talking about here, Dave? And why is pharma kind of all got its knickers in a twist on this one?
Well, John, the last criterion is that they are supposed to be like drugs where there's a lot of spending. Okay, so by definition, that's a lot of money. So you're goring the big oxen in order to get at it. So, but I have to say, John, okay, it's a reasonable question. It sounds like a fairly balanced plan, right? Something I would probably vote for. And so why is pharma upset about it at the end of the day?
Well, I thought we could negotiate prices for oxen.